There is a specific reason why Gen X is often called the feral generation, and it has nothing to do with rebellion. It has to do with a unique neurological wiring that comes from growing up in the last era of true, unmonitored silence. If you are part of this generation, you possess a set of survival skills that modern psychology suggests are becoming extinct. You didn't just survive your childhood, you engineered it. And, looking back, you realize that what today's parents might call neglect was actually the training ground for an elite form of mental toughness. The first psychological skill you developed is what I call the audio engineer focus. Modern kids have algorithms that serve them music. You had to hunt for it. You know the visceral stress of sitting in front of a boombox for 2 hours, finger hovering over the record button, waiting for your favorite song to cycle through the radio rotation. You had one nemesis, the DJ. You prayed he wouldn't talk over the intro, because if he did, the take was ruined. This wasn't just a hobby. This was cognitive training in high-stakes patience. You became a mathematician of media. You had to calculate the exact minutes and seconds of every song to make them fit perfectly onto side A of a cassette tape without cutting off the ending. You learned that value isn't given. It is curated, calculated, and earned. This leads to the second thing, which is adaptive solitude. You were likely a latchkey kid. You came home at 3:30 p.m. to an empty house, unlocked the door, and walked into total silence. You didn't panic. You didn't feel abandoned. You made a butterbread sandwich, turned on the TV, and managed your own existence until the adults came home. Psychology calls this internal locus of control. Because there was no one to entertain you, you built an entire internal world. You learned how to be alone without being lonely. While modern generations get anxious when they are disconnected for 5 minutes, you find peace in it, because you remember when being unreachable was a luxury, not a crisis. The third thing people who grew up in this era learned was their pain tolerance threshold. Your childhood playgrounds were not built for safety, they were built for natural selection. You remember the scorching heat of a 16-foot metal slide in the middle of July that would literally burn your skin. You rode bikes without helmets, miles from home, and when you fell off and gashed your leg deep enough to see white tissue, you didn't call for help because you couldn't. You walked the bike home, you cleaned the wound yourself, you learned that pain was a signal, not an emergency. This exposure to what researchers call safe danger wired your nervous system to remain calm in a crisis. You don't spiral when things go wrong today because you know you can survive the fall. The fourth thing I loved about this generation is their analog social intelligence. Today, privacy is impossible, but you grew up in a world where privacy was physical. If you wanted to talk to your crush or your best friend, you had to drag a 50-foot phone cord into the pantry or the closet just to get away from your parents in the kitchen. You spent your weekends at record stores not just buying but socializing. You didn't have group chats, you had physical gathering spots. This taught you how to read body language, tone, and silence in a way that a text message can never convey. You built relationships that were ride or die because you actually had to ride your bike to their house to see if they were home. Finally, this all culminates in your defining characteristic, the buckle-up resilience. You grew up hearing "buckle up, buttercup" instead of "are you okay?" You lived in the shadow of the Cold War and the threat of nuclear winter, yet you lived day to day with a shrug. You aren't cynical, you are simply unshakable. You are the bridge generation. You have the tech skills of the future, but the grit of the past. You are the only ones who can navigate a digital world with an analog soul. If you remember the smell of a fresh cassette tape or the taste of garden hose water, drop a comment